What's up, world? Welcome back to the WRPF podcast. I'm your host, Alex Uslar. Episode 26. This is your American Pro preview show. We are less than 9 days out from competition. You guys, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're a fan of the WRPF, you probably know what the American Pro is. A lot of you guys may be in attendance again this year if you were in attendance last year. American Pro, this is the second year. It's held out in Manassas, Virginia. All right, not too far from the capital, not too far from DC. Up there last year, that was my first time in that area. Took a road trip up there to Manassas, then went and saw the capital afterwards, and we're road tripping up there again this year. Me and the family, we leave this Saturday, so Go Strong will be out there representing. We'll have a Go Strong booth. So if you guys are fans of this podcast, make sure you come by, say what's up, introduce yourself to me and the fam for the Go Strong podcast. Anyway, back to the American Pro. Manassas, Virginia. This is the second year. This year, they're switching from a 2-day format to a 3-day format. All right. Already expanding exponentially. This show, we're going to talk about kind of how that format works, what you're going to see each day if you guys don't already know, what you're going to want to tune into, the battles that I'm excited for, the lifters that are battling for the top positions. A lot of this they posted on the American Pro page a couple months back. You can scroll back and you can see the top ranked lifters according to their entry dots posted there for each day. I have all that information in front of me. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to give you guys the preview, some of my predictions, etc. You can also follow along at competition on liftingcast.com. Each day will be on there. We'll also be talking about that roster that was posted a couple months ago and some of the withdrawals. So some of those lifters that we won't be on the lookout for anymore, which obviously is always very disappointing to see withdrawals in the sport, but it happens, it's inevitable. But when I started pulling that data and looking over it, it was actually less withdrawals than I thought. So American Pro, you guys know these are one of our big meets in the WRPF, one of our pro level meets. The other one being the Ghost Clash, which I am the host of, which was previously before I hosted the Ghost Clash. It was the Hybrid Showdown, which was a very large meet running for 3 years. So I've been running pro meets since 2017. I've done this next year's Ghost Clash will be my 7th pro level meet that I've ran. And I'll tell you what, I've been to tons of pro level meets. I've been to the big circuit of Boss of Bosses, Kern US Open, all these different meets. They're all fantastic. I've taken tons of inspiration from them over the years and what pushed me to want to start running pro level meets. And the American Pro is unlike any other. My boy Micah, his vision for this thing, his hype for this thing has been second to none in my opinion. And that's coming from someone who's been doing it myself 7 years, a long time. And the American Pro only has had 1 year. There's only been one competition to base this off of. And I just know Micah and Anna's improvements are going to be exponential. And even with no improvements, it was one of the funnest, greatest meets I've ever been able to experience and be a part of. So if you guys are still on the fence of whether you want to come out, highly suggest it. It's a pretty cool place. Like I said, close to the capital, close to Washington, D.C., and there's still spectator tickets available. If not, you're going to be able to tune into the live stream. Check out that A1 Digital live stream. See all of the action there on the live stream and experience it. And again, follow along on Lifting Cast to see what's up. What other things can you guys expect? There's a press conference where all the lifters are going to be able to talk and meet, and that's something that's very different from powerlifting in general. The only other meet that I can think of that does that is out in Ireland, the ABS Pro, and it's a pretty cool thing just to get lifters kind of pushed against each other, talking shit, camaraderie, all the above. Pretty cool thing that Micah and Anna have decided to add, and Micah's hype makes it very, very cool. Live DJ, song requests. They're doing a VIP Halloween party Sunday night at the end of the competition, along with the awards and such. So it's going to be a really good time out there in Virginia. Something that is different. You guys have heard us talk about this if you listen to the podcast previously, is the implementation of sessions, right? So nationals, if you guys competed at nationals, follow along with nationals. Nationals implemented sessions most recently. This is something that has not been implemented historically with the WRPF, but little by little, it is becoming more prominent. What this means is you're in and out of the competition, the gym, the ballroom, the arena for like the American Pro quicker. It's a shorter actual meet time. It allows more lifters to be able to compete on the same day without making it a very long day. I know when I started powerlifting in 2014, 2015, some of the first meets that I came to here in Florida, 9 a.m. start time is the norm. You know, most meets start at 9. I kid you not, there was meets that ran till 10 or 11 p.m. It was a common occurrence. It was a known occurrence. Everything from just too many lifters, lazy spotters and loaders, you know, bar dumps, computer technical difficulties. I was at so many meets that were supposed to start at 9 a.m. My athletes were getting ready. I was getting warmed up. And the next thing you know, computer technical difficulties with the ancient softwares that used to be used. And the meet didn't start till 10:15 a.m. Again, went till 10 or 11 p.m. And no one wants to do that. No one wants to start lifting weights first thing in the morning and do your final deadlifts at 10 or 11 p.m. It's just it's too much in the body. So sessions is something that federations of the USAPL have been incorporating for a very long time. We've decided to start incorporating it over, and the American Pro is the first pro level meet that has it incorporated. It's a learning curve. It's something different for these lifters. It requires more athleticism. It requires them to be able to move quicker through each lift. You don't complete squats and then have a 3-hour break until you begin bench because there's 3 other stacked flights because it's a 60 lifter meet, 4 flights, 15 lifters in each flight. You know, the 3 hours till you bench, you literally can leave the venue, go have lunch and take a nap and come back. Very different format. You finish squatting, you know, you have a couple minutes, you have 10, 15 minutes before you're laying down on the bench to start warming up for bench. You finish benching, again, you have about 10, 15 minutes before you're grabbing the bar to start deadlifting. It helps keep you on it, keep your adrenaline high without these kind of ups and downs. And there was a lot of success with it at nationals. So that's the American Pro is going to have that format. So what does that mean from a spectator and or viewership standpoint if you guys are tuning in? The meet begins, I believe, at 8 or 9 a.m. And what begins first is the non-prime time. It's the pro lifters that are not the top 15 respectively. So it's still pro level competition, but not the top lifters via dots. So those lifters are going to compete first. I believe it ranges anywhere from 25 to about 35 or 40 lifters in each morning session. All right. Day 1 is drug tested. Day 1 is Friday. So you'll be able to, again, follow along lifting cast, see those lifters, know who's in the morning session. You tune in 9 a.m. Eastern time. You begin watching those lifters. Come 3 p.m., I believe, 3 to 4 p.m., it varies each day. Again, schedules posted online, is when the prime time session begins for each day, respectively, with slight variance. All right. Prime time session is the top 15 lifters of each category. So on day 1, it's going to be the top 15 drug-tested men, top 15 drug-tested women. Something that's pretty cool, as I was looking over the roster, almost all of the drug-tested, with the exception of, I think, 2 athletes, all of the day 1 athletes competing drug-tested are all competing in sleeves. Okay, so day 1 is combined, regardless of sleeves or wraps, but 99% of them are all going to be sleeve lifters. Prime time session starting in the afternoon, 15 of the top men, 15 of the top women, and we're going to start jumping into some of those lifters, go over who the top 5 are, go over kind of how the spread of the competition is. So drug-tested prime time men, your top 5 are spread between a 530 dots and a 545 dots. Top 6, actually. All of your primetime lifters on day 1 all have an over 500 dots. Very cool to see on the drug-tested side of things. Very tight-knit competition. Again, this competition varies from other competitions as where like a high-level nationals meet where there's weight class battles. This less lifters are allowed in. So this meet is about the dots battle. Those are how it's determined the best lifters, and that's more what we're looking at as opposed to weight class battles. So again, your top 6 lifters, you have 3 of them with a 530 dots, 2 of them with a 540 dots, and at the top you have Edouard with a 545 dots. So you know these top lifters are going to be battling. The number you're going to be reaching for is a 550 dots. 550 plus to get you first. But again, we're looking for those first through third for your top 3 dots placements. Lifter that stands out in this list to me greatly is Nabil. Nabil, if you look at his history, we've had him here on the podcast. He's broken all-time world records. He is a deadlift specialist who has become a more and more well-rounded lifter over the years. Year and a half, because his career has been very short. Young guy doing fantastically. So although Nabil is ranked 5th on this list with a tie at the 530 dots, I very much think he can make a run for first place. Putting together his training from what I've seen out of him and reaching towards that 550 dots. I know he's gone back and forth with different weight classes and broken all-time world records at 148, and now historically has been at 165. I believe he is going down for this meet again, which again is going to give him a big advantage when it comes to dots and what he's able to do. So super excited to see all of these gentlemen battle it out, and potentially have multiple 550 plus dots performances from the drug-tested male side of things. These are the elite of the elite drug-tested men who prefer to compete on a deadlift bar with 24-hour weigh-ins. Moving on to our drug-tested women, all right? Your top 4 women all have a 500-plus dots, with your 5th woman just barely missing out on 500 dots. So it's pretty cool to think that potentially all top 5 women will have 500-plus dots. Ashley Wilson is your top-ranked lifter by 14 dots points with a 523 dots. Antoinette has a 509, but then our next 2 lifters after that, also ranked at above 500, who were originally on our roster, have since withdrawn. That's where we're going to start getting into some of those withdrawals, right? So those top 5 drug-tested men we talked about, they're still on the roster. None of them have needed to withdraw. However, from our top 5 women, we already have 2 of the top women who would have been battling out for that first, second, third place having to withdraw, which then gives these other lifters, such as Brittany Chown and Cheryl Moser, a chance to come in, and Abigail Navarez, who is also right behind there with 485 dots, respectively. So super cool and excited to see all these women battle out, see who comes out on top, and that's your drug-tested women on day 1. So again, 15 primetime men, 15 primetime women, all drug tests. That's going to be Friday. Like I said, less than 9 days away. Make sure you guys tune in, check out those drug-tested lifters. Then the battle that you guys want to see, right? The battle that from the male side of things that I'm most excited for is going to be on Saturday, right? So same format. You have your pro lifters in the morning, and then you have your prime time lifters in the afternoon. With that prime time session, your top 15 men and top 15 women. Let's jump into the sleeves side of the top 15 men. We've seen a lot of withdrawals on this side. So if you guys are online, I'm following along on my phone, and you'd seen this roster that essentially gives you the top 15 men and all of their dot scores that is available on the American Pro page. Looking at that, there are quite a few lifters who are not on the roster anymore via lifting cast and have been replaced with other lifters. All of your top 5 men in sleeves all had a 600 plus dots. All right. We did get one withdrawal from those top 5, but let's talk about who those top 5 are. All right. Number 1, you have Mr. John Hack, right? Mr. Unbeatable, 661 dots. Now, anything can happen. Anything can happen. There's some big predictions for some of these other lifters coming in that are in those 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th spots, where they're going to give John a run for their money. And you guys are going to, John is going to be our last guest next week, 2 days before the American Pro. You guys will finally hear John Hack, me interviewing him and coming on. So that will be next week's episode. Keep an eye on that. John Hack has decimated and been untouchable for years in the untested side of powerlifting after being practically untouchable in the tested side of powerlifting. 661 dots is his entry-level dots. Anything can happen. Your second lifter coming in with a 604 dots was Derek Thistlewaite. Now, Derek is one of those people who is not on the roster anymore. All right. Seen this many times with Derek, right? Derek chooses the meet that he wants to go to according to how his training is going, how he's feeling, where he thinks he can perform the best, and kind of climb the rank. All the power to him. He's withdrawn out of many meets, but he's also, the meets that he does do, he performs very, very well at. I believe he withdrew already like a month and a half or so ago due to a pec injury. But if you guys are watching his Instagram, I just saw him bench 474 at like RPE 6, and he deadlifted an all-time PR at 942 pounds. Okay. If I didn't know any better, I think that Derek might still show up and compete, but I don't know. That's just me hoping and wondering, because last year he had withdrawn himself from the roster, and next thing you know, he showed up to weigh-ins. So will we still see Derek? I don't know, because he is in the midst of, even though, like I said, just hit those very heavy numbers after an injury, he still is in the midst of doing pretty high volume, doing since 8 to 10 I've seen on the lifts. But who's to say that you can't peak and taper differently than how you traditionally would? But as of right now, Derek is withdrawn, not on the roster. So that takes us to spot number 3. Spot number 3 also has a 604 entry dots, and that's Mr. Zach Myers. You guys also heard Zach on the podcast recently. Multiple all-time world record holder, like all of these men in the top 5 are. All right. And Zach is coming for some big numbers, coming for some big PRs. That's gonna potentially increase his dot score pretty significantly. I could see Zach pulling out a 615 to 620, maybe even 625 dots if everything goes according to plan. And that's also just kind of going to give you an idea of these next couple of lifters. All of them are entered in at within 1 dots point of each other. These lifters were lifters that my athlete, who we'll get into in a second, was battling against next year and having to watch those points, watch those quarter of a points, watch those half of points, kind of predicting what was going to happen. And my lifter being Juwan Garrison, who was able to come in, swoop up second place, and push behind Derek, push behind Zach Myers, push behind Dan Grigsby. But all of those lifters have since put up higher performances. So Zach Myers, I'm predicting a pretty big day from him. Which will potentially, if John has a perfect day, give a good battle for second place. But again, anything can happen for that top spot. Now, Danny Grigsby. We're going to see some wild shit out of him. He was known for so long as a deadlift specialist, but has well-rounded all of his lifts significantly, has done little tune-up meets where he's continued to improve his total without even going all out, without even taking all 9 attempts. So I know Danny has some big plans, and Danny's also head-to-head going against Zach Myers. They're both 275s with sleeves, so they're both gunning for all-time world records. So they're both wanting to beat each other in the all-time world record total. So we're going to see a lot of different attempt selection. It's going to be a good battle to watch when it comes to that, all these lifters being in the same flight. Danny having the advantage of being a deadlift specialist and deciding what he wants to load on the bar to kind of edge himself ahead in dots points. Again, when we had Danny on this podcast a couple of months back, he has big plans. He has big plans for the meet and what he wants to attempt, and it's going to be very exciting to see. Again, I put Danny somewhere between that 515 to 525 dots kind of area, but anything's possible. Could be higher. Who knows what happens? Then here we go after Danny. So again, Zach was entered at 604, Danny entered at 603, and then my boy Juwan Garrison entered at 603. Juwan was the guest last week. Juwan is my athlete. I've been coaching Juwan almost 2 years now, about 2 years now. And between battling through different injuries, he still continued to climb the ranks with last year's American Pro, breaking the all-time world record squat at 181. Getting within arm's reach of breaking the all-time world record bench at 181 that has stood for a long time, and within spitting distance of the all-time world record total. This is Juwan's last meet at 181. Again, last week, if you guys listened, I didn't want to give you guys any specific predictions, but if all goes according to plan, Juwan is going to absolutely destroy his current dots of 603 and be in the running with those other guys of that 615, 625 range. If he has a perfect day, we have some big predictions for him to be pretty significantly over, that 620 to 625 dots mark, which again, anything can happen, can give John Hack a run for his money. Any missed lifts drops that dots point significantly. So it's really a game of building the total to build those dots points to see who comes out on top. Regardless, it's going to be a huge battle because, again, if anyone misses any lifts, it's going to drop them significantly. These are multiple lifters, all with 600 plus dots, and any wrong move can drop you below that, or any right move can put you substantially ahead of all the rest. And then when you have a deadlift specialist come in, sweep things away. So it's going to be a huge battle. I'm super excited to see all of those guys. We've had, again, multiple pullouts in what was originally the prime time sleeved men. Joe Sullivan pulling out a couple days ago due to a back injury and just making the smart long game decision that it's not the right decision for him to still go forward and compete. Huge Asian guy, Andy Huang. I believe he pulled out a while ago, but he was originally on this primetime roster. Jordan Faria, Florida man. Not sure his decision behind pulling out. However, he is signed up for the Ghost Clash in 6 months from now, so we'll see him again run it back then. Moving on to the women sleeves on Saturday as well. What's really cool is those top 5 women, they are all still on the roster. No withdrawals from the top 5 women. And we'll dive into it. Number 1 ranked, tied for number 1, we have Ashley Contorno, veggie lifter, and Yelena Espinoza. Both of those lifters had massive performances, which had them battling for first, second, and third place, respectively, at the Ghost Clash 1 a year and a half ago here in Miami. I believe both those lifters' best performances in these 592 entry dots were done at that meet. Don't hold my my word to it. But both those lifters coming in with those massive dots points, everyone's goal, all these lifters wanting to break that 600 barrier, and what better meet to do it at than the American Pro. So we're going to see both those ladies battling it out, trying to inch as close as possible to that 600 dots barrier, and anything can happen. I'm super excited to see them battling out for first, but don't discount our third-ranked lifter, which is Barbara Lee with a 586 dots. Barbara Lee's been in the sport for a long time, and she has continually gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. I've seen her compete in Florida. I believe she's from Georgia. She came down here. I saw her at meets years and years and years back, and she's just continually gotten better and better, putting up a third entry dots of 586. Again, anything can happen. If any of these ladies these ladies ranked in first make a mistake, it gives Barbara a chance to jump ahead. 600 dots isn't necessarily the number that you need to win at this competition. Sure, these ladies might be reaching for that, might be aiming for that, but all you need is more than your competition, right? Then in third place, we have Miss Tamara Walcott. Tamara is an awesome lady, made a huge impact for female powerlifting, being on ESPN, doing deadlift challenges at the Arnold, etc. Tamara has multiple all-time world records. Looking to break them. She hasn't competed since the American Pro last year, so nice long off season with a 574 entry dots. Definitely looking for her to give those top 3 ladies a run for their money. And then ranked in 5th place, we have Erin Westby with a 561 dots. I looked her up recently because she got an invite for the Ghost Clash, and this chick has just come out of nowhere, absolutely dominating and climbing the ranks extremely rapidly. Definitely someone that we'll have on the podcast, especially leading up to the Ghost Clash, which she's competing at against again. I believe this year is kind of making her pro circuit debut of these pro level meets. But it was just crazy to see where she started and where she's jumped and climbed to. So keep an eye out for her. And those are your top 5 women in sleeves. That roster is still intact. Anything can happen. Excited to see it. Moving on to our men in knee wraps. That's going to be Sunday, day 3, our primetime men in knee wraps. Chad Penson, man, 650 entry dots. Huge, 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 right? So Chad last year hit a huge all-time world record squat, tried to increase it, accidentally had over 1,000 pounds loaded on his back, still was able to come back and put together a meet after having a massive misload on his back. Chad has been a pro level powerlifter for a long time. He's been doing this thing for a hot minute. If you look at his open powerlifting history, tons of good performances, some time off in between, different injuries along the way. It looks like his training has been going very well, coming back after his quad tears last summer. Or this past summer, I believe. Super excited to see what he can put together. Super excited to see him break his all-time world record total. Looking at the ranking, he's ranked very far above our number 2, but our number 2 has been doing some crazy shit, right? So Chad with that 650 dots. We got number 2, Mr. Blake LaHue with a 630. Now, Blake has been putting up some huge numbers in reps. He was supposed to go sleeves for his last head-to-head with Jawan at 181 in sleeves, as both these guys have said they want to go up to 198. He decided he wanted to see what kind of legacy and damage he can leave at 181 in reps. And again, his training numbers put him at a huge, huge, huge dots placement. So it's going to be very, very cool to see him and Chad battling it out for first place, because they are very far above the rest of the competition, that I don't really see any contender coming in to swoop in for first. It's going to be the two of those guys head to head, and Blake having a really big advantage since he's a deadlift specialist on what he needs to pull to kind of go ahead when it comes to dots, if he has a perfect day with squat like his squats in training have been looking. Ranked in third, we have Malik Durstein. Malik is a legend. Malik has been competing for a super long time. I remember first seeing him like at the 2017, 2016 US Open and Bossa Bosses. He's been doing it a long time. He comes to us with a 615 entry-level dots and reps. And I think he's a solid contender to keep and secure that potential third place if Phil Herndon doesn't come in and steal that away from him. Phil has a 600 dots, entry dots come into this competition. Phil had some issues last year at the American Pro, bombing out on depth in reps, but has since, I believe, fixed that, and his squats have been looking a lot more legitimate. He's put up some absolutely insane training squats, over 1,000 pounds. So even with a 600 entry dots, he can really come up there and push, I want to say that 615, 620, 625 barrier potentially, which could push Malik out of that top 3 if his depth is on point for squats. I think that's what it really comes down to, and his grip and his lockout on deadlifts. Wrapping up our top 5, we have Chris Pugh with a 591 dots. Chris, he broke Malik's all-time world record squat sometime last year at a kind of a not that reputable federation overseas. A lot of people were calling him out. I called him out and I invited him to come compete at the Ghost Clash on a prestige stage, and he signed up. He was going to come, and he ended up withdrawing within the last couple weeks leading up to the meet. I'm not sure the reasoning why, but he is still on the roster for the American Pro. I hope he's coming overseas. I hope he's coming to compete, because I want to see what he can put together. Strong guy. I want to see if he can, if Malik and Blake are going to be battling for that all-time world record squat, which he's broken. These guys are all 181s and all squat over. Well, Blake's gotten close to 800. Malik being the former all-time world record squat holder, over 800. Chris breaking that all-time world record at above 800 with not the best standards, in my honest opinion. I'd love to see him come take a crack at it, break it further, and go against these other two gentlemen at 181 for that all-time world record wrapped squat. And it's going to be a good battle. It's going to be a good battle for those top 5 men and the top 3 to see who comes out on top. Moving on, the last battle, all right? This is the battle that I think I'm the most excited for of the entire weekend. It's going to be the finale. It's going to be day 3 after 2 other long days of lifting. We got the women's in wraps. And, dude, the battle between Chrissy Hawkins, Denise Herber, and Brianni Terry. The Battle of the 165 women. All right. I don't remember the last time there was a battle like this in the sport of in the untested side of powerlifting. We hear a lot about these weight class battles in the USAPL because it is more weight class focused. And now, although this meet is dots focused, all three of these women are wanting to come after different all-time world records, specifically that all-time world record deadlift, with all three of these women being some of the lightest women ever to pull over 600 pounds, right? All of them being super, super neck and neck. The crazy thing is Briani, her entry dots isn't even putting her in this top 5 conversation, okay? However, her entry dots is nothing like what her recent performances have been. Her entry dots was little tune-up meets to get her in shape, and her entry dots is a 597 dots. And again, that puts her at number 6. It's wild. It's wild, these women's dots points. Go look at this sheet, right? Coming in at number 1, you have Christy Hawkins with a 704 dots. Untouchable. Christy's done things in this sport that people can only dream of. But we've seen these women getting stronger and stronger over the years, and people want this weight class push is going to push Christy to new heights, right? Christy is still my prediction for number 1, first overall in dots. But again, anything can happen. Any missed lift costs you significant dots points. And especially with these ladies wanting to battle it out for deadlift specifically, make poor decisions on the deadlift, end up 1 for 3 on deadlift, drops your dots points significantly. Christy is tried and true. She's been in the sport for a very long time. She's very seasoned. She's smart with her attempt selection. Meet after meet, she's made improvements. So I don't think she's going to make that mistake. I do think Christy is going to come out on top when it comes to dots. When it comes to deadlift, my money's on Denise Herbert to come out on top with the all-time world record deadlift based on what she's been doing in training and how she puts it together on the platform. But I believe all 3 of those ladies I mentioned are going to be chipping each other on attempts, and it's going to be really fun to watch. Our second entry is Hunter Henderson with a 687 dot. Legendary, right? Hunter has multiple all-time world records across multiple weight classes. She's done some crazy shit. And we're going to have her going against Samantha Rice, which is going to be super, super, super exciting to see. Samantha Rice being entered in at 5th with a 608 dots. But that's her 608 entry dots and wraps. Her dots and sleeves is significantly higher. All right. So this numbers we're seeing, you forget that actually puts Samantha way higher on this ranking in sleeves. So imagine what she puts on wraps. Number 3, we have Denise Herbert with a 641 dots done at the Ghost Clash earlier this year. Like I said, Denise is my favorite to end up taking the deadlift potentially out of these 3 women. Simply because she can grind. The way that she pulls, there's not really technical error like in some sumo pulls, etc. Fatigue carrying over. But she's giving all these ladies a run for the money for the top 3 overall as well. I believe it's going to take at least a 650 or 660 dots to get in the top 3 of women in wraps. That's absurd. So I believe Christy's going to come out on top. Hunter, if she has a perfect day, will come out second. And then it's essentially a battle for that 3rd spot, even though Samantha Rice could come over, take that 2nd place as well. But we're going to have Denise Herbert, Samantha Rice, Briani Terry, Angelina Bennett, all battling it out for that 3rd place spot. It's going to be absolutely freaking wild. If you go all the way down, our top 7 women, number 7th ranked, Suzanne Davis, another legend, 593 dots. We're going to see so many 600 plus dots. It's going to be absolutely, absolutely wild. Very cool that all the women are still on the roster. In wraps, all of them have stayed healthy so that they can come to do this epic battle on day 3 of the American Pro. Woo! Do you guys like that? Did I give some good insight? Can you guys tell I'm super, super excited for this meet? I'm super excited to be out there to experience this. I love the sport of powerlifting. I love so many of these lifters competing, these ladies and gentlemen. I know them all personally, and it's hard for me to root for just one. I'm rooting for all of them to have the best day possible and exceed their previous performances, and it's going to be awesome to watch, guys. Where do you tune in? You tune in on the WRPF YouTube page. If you watch this podcast on YouTube, same page is going to be on there. If not, head on over to YouTube. Look for the WRPF America's YouTube page. It's going to be fun. I hope to see you guys out there. I hope you guys are all as excited about these battles as I am. And we will see you guys in 8.5 days. WRPF podcast out. American Pro Preview Show.